right, welcome back, everybody. Happy holidays. I hope you had a great time over the last few weeks. We are back here at Union Public House to talk Wildcat basketball with head coach Tommy Lloyd. Special guest coming up as well. And lots to cover after a few weeks away, including the Wildcats win last night over Kansas State. And we'll look ahead to the road trip to TCU coming up on Saturday when the Wildcats take on the Horned Frogs in Fort Worth. Arizona sits at 15-0 on the season, ranked number 1 in the country. We are right about the halfway point of the season. A lot of basketball yet to be played, and that's what's fun, to watch this team continue to grow over the next couple of months. So, Coach, let's start. How about last night? 101-76, the final over another group of Wildcats, Kansas State. Good win.
It was a great win. We had a great crowd. You know, I really appreciate everybody coming out, and I appreciate everybody coming out for the show tonight. I mean, I heard there's like some football game going on or something as well right now, something like that. But we appreciate everybody coming out. It was a great night last night, and I mean, you know, every night's going to be a challenge, but you know, so far these guys have been up to those challenges, and it's been really fun to be with this group on a day-to-day basis.
Has anything at all surprised you 15 games into the season?
You know, I don't know if there's any major surprises. You know, I mean, I think we felt like, you know, we had a strong team, and you know, we had talented players and great character, but you know, we didn't want to over exaggerate or over embellish it. You know, we wanted to be able to prove it on a night in and night out basis, and that's still our mindset. We know there's a lot of challenges ahead. You know, starting, I'm sure we'll get to it, Saturday on the road at TCU. I think, you know, I've heard it's already sold out, and they're excited to be hosting us. So we look forward to that challenge, and you know, and really, it's been really cool to coach this group. It's a good mix of youngsters and some vets, and they seem to have meshed really well, and they really support each other.
I would imagine that for a coach, consistency is one thing you would love to see from your team, man, night in and night out.
100%. I mean, consistency and steady. I mean, those are two words that you know, go through my mind a lot. You know, we don't want to be a volatile group. We want to be steady, you know, in our approach. And you know what all that means is, you know, how you handle success, how you handle failure, and you know, the old adage, don't get too high, don't get too low. But we're not afraid to push the limits of getting too high. You know, we're a high energy group. You know that, you know, and when you use emotion the right way, it can be really powerful on the court. And it's an emotional game, and you know, you got to kind of sometimes ride those waves. But all in all, you know, I think this group has a real maturity about it, and you know, and that's fun. You know, and I always, you know, for me and my mindset is, you know, if I want my team to be steady, then I've got to be steady. And, you know, I think, you know, that, you know, I got to make sure that I'm bringing that to the culture every single day as our staff and everybody associated with our program.
So at the same time, you've not had what you could call, quote unquote, I'll just use this because it's a cliche, like the go-to guy. Everybody on the team, those top 8 guys, night in and night out, any one of them could end up to be the leading scorer on the team.
Yeah.
How good is that?
Well, it's great. You know, I mean, I thought early, you know, I thought JB, you know, really carried us in some of those clutch moments, you know, early in the season, and kind of, you know, played the go-to role. You know, but again, we don't ever want that to be the responsibility of just one guy. I mean, I think that, you know, you might have teams, you know, that kind of ends up being the thing. You have one guy that kind of, you count on to kind of get you over, you know, the hump in those tough moments, and you kind of live or die with you know, how he plays. And you know, I think to give yourself the best chance to win most consistently at the highest level, you need a few other guys that can do that as well. And I think we have that. I think you're seeing that, you know, just with Braden kind of, you know, rising, and, you know, Koa, you know, is kind of, seems to me he's gotten a real consistent stretch. You know, and then, you know, then those bigs, you know, Tobe, you know, and Mo are great, and, you know, JB's continued to do it. And, you know, another guy that I thought played really well last night, just, you know, didn't make a shot or two, you know, like he normally would, you know, that kind of would have made it stand out statistically, was Deli. You know, I thought Deli last night, you know, his energy and his effort was in a good place, and I was really happy with the shots he took, and we need to get him to continue to play that way, you know, because there's going to be some games down the stretch here where, you know, he's going to be the X factor.
Well, statistically, all the numbers are up, but I know I wanted to ask you specifically about defense. What's better? What has made this team good defensively? Well,
I think we got a good defensive makeup. You know, I think we got good defensive versatility. I think we have guys that, you know, are understanding the importance of playing well at that end, because that really kickstarts our game offensively. And, you know, basketball is such a a quick hitting game with changing the possessions from offense to defense and defense to offense, that really they become intertwined. And, the better your defense is, the better potential your offense has. So, I think our guys are really understanding that. And then on top of that, I think we have really good individual defenders. And I think, our staff's doing a good job, of game planning. And these guys are doing a good job of executing the plan.
We probably don't have time tonight to go through every player, and that's not the object of the show on a weekly basis. But I did want to ask you about Braden Burries because, as a typical freshman early on, he probably had his struggles. And then that Alabama game if that was the game that, he kind of exploded at that point. And since then has really been a bigger factor offensively. And one thing I noticed, again, has nothing to do with statistics, is the fact that he's got a smile on his face now when he's playing with joy.
Yeah, but well, Braden's a great kid. He's really, really low key, and he's not a big, loud personality. He's fun, and he's like all these kids. He's got his own personality, but publicly he's pretty quiet. So he's not demonstrative, and so I think it just took him. He needed to come out and he needed to have his own experience. And I had great conversations with him as he was going through that, and there's a difference between a confidence that comes from comfort and a confidence that comes from being uncomfortable. And I think, to kind of rise to the top in any field, you got to have a confidence that, that allows you to perform well out of your comfort zone. And, he had to, any kid coming from high school, to college, you're going to get out of your comfort zone. And he got knocked out of his comfort zone a little bit. And as he figured it out, what it was going to take to be successful at this level, I think once he came out on the other side of it, he had a different confidence, a real confidence that really had nothing to do with him being comfortable, had him with understanding what he needed to do and a belief in himself. So, what we're seeing a young man on the other side of that right now, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. Now the leading scorer for the Wildcats, if you're keeping your stats, of course, after he tied his career season high with 28 points last night. All right, Arizona TCU Saturday. We'll talk about that coming up. We've got lots more. We're at Union Public House. Great to have everybody back. And we're presented by West Coast Trial Lawyers. More with head coach Tommy Lloyd in a moment. This is Wildcat Basketball from Arizona Sports Enterprises. All right, we continue from Union Public House, Tommy Lloyd Radio Show. We've got a special guest tonight. We're going to talk the College of Science at the U of A and some fascinating areas that college covers on campus. It's been a big part of U of A for a long, long time, of course, and some events coming up that the public can be invited to as well. So that's coming up here. We'll also touch on the Wildcats' next opponent, TCU. That's a game on Saturday in Fort Worth, 2 o'clock tip. Arizona time, and then next Wednesday the Wildcats are home to host Arizona State 8:30 at McHale Center, and I know that place is going to be packed for that game. It always is when the Sun Devils come to town. When we were talking before yesterday's ball game and just briefly touched on the fact that you watched some of the games on Tuesday, and the Big 12 is arguably the best conference in college basketball right now. 7 teams ranked in the top 25 right now, and you just watch the games and the war that goes on, just the physical nature, the back and forth. Great conference. What have you seen so far?
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. It's a privilege to compete with these other teams, and when you watch those other games, Tuesday was good for me. It was a great reminder of, how physical these games get, and every possession counts. All the things you normally would say, and so for our team, I really wanted to get us just to embrace the joy of the competition. I don't want us to get fixated on a result, or feel any pressure or heaviness, to win, and let's compete. Let's enjoy it. And, I think it's really, really important for us to get comfortable and tighter moments in the game, for whatever reason we haven't had one in a while. And, I think we all forget, but this team did have some early. The Florida game, we were down 10, and that game was possession by possession. The UCLA game, I think we were down like 7 or 8, kind of under 10 minutes to go, and we found a way. The UConn game was possession by possession pretty much the whole way, and we kind of made a little run, and we were able to kind of ride it out. So, and then even the Alabama game, I think were we down at half it's close, and then the San Diego State game, we might have just, I think we were down 27-20, and I think we might have made a little run to go up 1 or something at half. So, Our team's been in those situations. We've been comfortable, but we can't forget that. You got to be comfortable getting in those games. There's, the margin of victory doesn't matter. But just the competitive spirit to find a way to get the win does, and that's what I want to make sure that we're feeding into.
So, because of the fact that your team's traveled a lot already this season, you've played really tough competition. Winning the game's one thing, but just the idea that they've been through a lot so far. So when they get to Fort Worth on Saturday, it's not like, oh wow, this is something new for them.
For sure, I've been on with teams and in my previous place of employment where we had a great season going and a lot of blowouts, and then the next thing you know, you end up in a close game and everyone gets a little concerned. It's a little uncomfortable, and so I want to make sure that this group doesn't get bogged down by that. There is no heaviness in winning. Let's go out and embrace the challenge and understand. Losing is part of the equation. It's part of our profession. It's something that we signed up to be part of. We don't love it, and we're not trying to lose, but it's also a reality. So to me, that's really important that you're able to kind of handle the success, but understand that it's not a given, and so why approach it with putting pressure on yourself?
Right. All right, there's a lot of numbers out there, but I did want to mention that the two conference games so far, your team's taken much better care of the ball. I think only 17 turnovers in the two games combined, and it's got to be a vital number to keep low here as you get deeper into the season.
Well, yeah, I mean, it is. One of the things we talk about a lot is the possession game, and what the possession game of basketball comes down to, if you really want to simplify it, it's rebounding and the turnovers, and your offensive rebounding, your defensive rebounding, your turnovers versus your, turnovers created by your opponent. And so, we want to win that possession game. If you win the possession game, you have an advantage. You get more shots on goal. You have more scoring opportunities. The other team has less scoring opportunities. So, to kind of really drill it down to simplicity. And I told our guys, we're not going to be a program that's going to be conservative in how we play. I want our guys to have freedom to be aggressive and be creative. But, at the same time, if they can all just understand turn the idle down a little bit, and if each guy can, let's say you have 17 turnovers, which can be a high number, but whatever. You have a lot of possessions. If you have 17 turnovers, you'd like to have a few less. I don't think the goal is to have zero, but I think it's, if everybody that's playing can find a way to reduce one turnover for our team throughout the game, maybe now we get down to 10 turnovers. And so how do you do that? It's just making one better decision, and so that's how we've approached it. And it worked out the last couple games, and it's important when we go on the road to do the same thing.
All right, Cats and the Horned Frogs coming up Saturday. We'll talk about TCU when we continue in a moment. We're at Union Public House with head coach Tommy Lloyd. More coming up. This is Wildcat Basketball from Arizona Sports Enterprises. All right, Tommy Lloyd Radio Show presented by West Coast Trial Lawyers as we continue here at Union Public House. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And I also want to remind you that next week, the Wildcats are home to Arizona State on Wednesday. I want to thank our game sponsor for that contest, MidFirst Bank, home of the Arizona Athletics debit card. Go to midfirst.com/Wildcats for details. That's MidFirst Bank, true to you member, FDIC. But first things first, TCU coming up on Saturday in Fort Worth. It'll be a great atmosphere there. The Horned Frogs, record of 11-4, 1-1 in the conference. They beat Baylor in their opener at home. Lost a tough game at Kansas. They led through a lot of that game. Give the Jayhawks credit. They were at home. They came back and won it in overtime. But TCU, a really quality team, quality coach, first of all, really good team.
Yeah, I mean, Jamie's one of the good guys in our business, and, he's been doing it for a long time and had a lot of success. And, he and I have, got to developed a good relationship, kind of through USA basketball and then now being in the Big 12 together. So I have a lot of respect for him, and, he just does a really good job.
Okay, so they're not the tallest team in America. Their front line goes 6'7", 6'7", and 6'8", and yet David Punch leads the conference in block shots, and he stands 6'7".
Well, he's got a last name that's apropos. Because he does pack a punch.
Okay.
And he's an athletic guy. He's strong. He's physical, and he's really developed. In his second year there. And last year you could see the potential, but they've done a great job with him. He's made a big jump, and he's going to be a formidable challenge for us.
Is there a personality with Jamie Dixon teams that you can draw year in and year out?
Yeah, I mean, his teams are never going to lack in the toughness areas. I mean, they're going to rebound. I think he's done a really good job the past couple of years of kind of amping up their running game. And, so if you look at their possessions, it might be a little bit misleading because they do push the ball on misses. They do push the ball on made baskets. But just once if you can kind of slow them down, then maybe their half-court possessions are a little longer, and so like maybe that's, kind of throwing off the, when people look at pace and tempo. But their running game is formidable. And, I think a couple of years ago, I remember I talked to Jamie about it because, we had played them in the round of 32 in San Diego, and luckily we found a way to get by with a win in overtime. The next year they came out. I just remember watching them, because you can always kind of keep tabs on these teams you used to play. I think they led the country in transition points, and and they're not leading it now, but you saw a real concerted effort for them to get good in the transition game. So, that's something you have to pay attention to on the road. I mean, that's how things can get away from you a little bit. And, we've been trying to, continue to work on our transition defense. And when you play as, kind of aggressive as we do and with the pace and tempo, sometimes you sacrifice a little bit in the transition defense area, and we're trying to stay tight there.
Okay. So I know it's a different cast of characters from the game in San Diego, but between Kristen Coloco and Eddie Lampkin, that was about as physical game as you could ask for in an NCAA tournament game. Ben Matherin had a lot to do with the win, of course, but those two guys in the middle, that was just a great battle to watch them go.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that was Eddie Lampkin's coming out party. Had like an 18 point, 20 rebound game against us, and I mean, they really, come on, they pushed us to the limits that day, and we were fortunate to come out on the good side.
All right. What else could he tell us about TCU? Anything else stand out?
They just, they have a couple guards that are really good. Guys, I'm not great with names. I'm great with numbers. So number one is their shooting guard, and he can really create his own shot. He shoots the ball well off the dribble. Two, their point guards. It's kind of a traditional old school point guard. He's a distributor, and he just does a great job. Finding their shooters, finding their cutters, finding their posts on late duck-ins. So, he plays really good with his 2 feet on the ground and with his fakes. So, he really controls the game. They got our full attention for sure. All
right, Jaden Pierre and Brock Harding,
yes,
for those
who
have a program if they want to keep track of those things.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I get it all the time. Brent Brennan's the same as you.
Maybe it's a coach's weakness. But that's why you and I are good teammates. Covering up for me.
You guys watch film. You're not concerned about names. You just see a number there. That's
exactly.
And when your players are on the court, they're not looking at names. They're looking at numbers, right?
And I'm bad. I don't even really know all our players' numbers, to be honest with you, because I'm with them every day. So I just know them as Tobe. I don't call him number 30. I think he's number 30.
He is number 30. That's
Tobe.
good.
So,
okay.
So.
Well, maybe we should quiz you at some point this season.
Oh wow, we
maybe
probably don't
not.
want to do that. Yeah, I don't think let's pass on
all
that.
Right. Did you have a good holiday with the family and everybody?
We had a great holiday. For me, it's always a much-needed couple days off, and as you know, my wife, I don't know where she is. She's here somewhere.
Oh, in the back there.
Yeah, she's probably visiting people. Oh, she does a great job, getting our family together, and we got my parents down here now, her parents down here now, her sisters down here now. So we got a lot more family that have accumulated in Tucson the past couple of years. So that's been a ton of fun. It's easier to get everybody together, but she's always done a great job just kind of giving me some space during those few days. And, I don't know if I've ever traveled on Christmas just because you need a reset.
Yeah.
You need a little bit of a reset. So we had a great time at home, and, it was a ton of fun, and it was good. I got a little reset, and then I kind of was able to kind of refocus and, kind of pre-plan, kind of the next steps of our build. And so I spent some time on that and kind of what we wanted to do basketball-wise, what we wanted to do culture-wise, and it was a great holiday.
All right, so I read an article, and it was kind of a debate between coaches as to playing a game between Christmas and the start of conference play or not. Some coaches want to take more time off, get everything done before Christmas, come back for conference play. You, like a number of coaches, elected to have that game in between. Yeah. Why was that important?
Well, there would have been such a big gap with the Big 12 moving to 18 games. It kind of pushed everything back after January 1 for the start of conference. I just feel like that's just a little too big of a gap, and your teams have rhythms, and so for me, if we're going to get the extra few days off, my preference probably would have been to end at the San Diego State game. But just to get the required number of games in, we had to squeeze in that game on the 22nd. I think that was Bethune-Cookman, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah, if we can get the extra days off, we're always going to want it on the front end of Christmas. And then, generally, in an ideal world, we get our guys back. They fly back the morning of the 26th, and, we kind of meet as a team on the evening of the 26th, and you can, have a practice on the 26th. I like this year, 26th, 27th, 28th, and then playing on the 29th was kind of a day. Because these guys need a rest a little bit, and when you don't realize, because none of us are doing the physical activity that they're doing, when you take that day or two off, your body starts shutting down on you, and it's like, hey, thank you, and so you got to kind of wake it back up again, and just to get the proper conditioning and rhythm and timing down.
All right, one more segment here with head coach Tommy Lloyd. Then we're going to talk College of Science. We're at Union Public House. This is Wildcat Basketball from Arizona Sports Enterprises. All right, welcome back to the Tommy Lloyd Radio Show presented by West Coast Trial Lawyers. Arizona and TCU coming up Saturday from Fort Worth, Texas. That'll be a 2 o'clock tip-off Arizona time. Then next Wednesday, the Wildcats will host Arizona State, and then it's back on the road after that. But first things first, Horned Frogs coming up on Saturday, again, at 2 o'clock. If you are interested in the CFP football game tonight, and if you're recording it and listening to the show, I won't spoil it for you, but the score is 7-3. That's all you need to know right there. Hey, I don't know, Coach, if you, because I know you're so involved in coaching, notice some of the things around at McHale Center, but when Sidi Gay comes into the game, the fans go crazy. Yeah. They love this young man. He's got a great personality, and maybe they know that already. And whenever, a guy gets to come in at the end of the game, and then he affects the game in some way, even if the game's over at that point, score-wise, he plays so hard. But tell us a little more about Sidi.
Well, Sidi's he's a really cool young man, and he's had quite a journey in life already. This year hasn't been easy for him. It's been a big adjustment for him in a lot of ways. And let's start with, he decided to come to the States, and then he. We got a lot of things going on in our country right now. Well, he goes to get his student visa, and it's turned down. And, here's a kid who's, his dream's about to come true, and it felt like it was getting taken from him. And so it took us a couple more months to kind of work that out. And he was able to get his student visa, and he came here, and he was a little bit behind. Obviously physically he had to catch up, but then, language-wise he had to catch up, and just cultural-wise he had to catch up. So I'm looking for Sidi to make a big jump here in the next few months, and I've challenged him. I've been nice, I've been tough. I've tried them all, but you watch him go in that game yesterday, and he goes 3 for 4 from the line, and then he dunks the heck out of that ball, on that one play, and it's really a unique skill set. So I'm really pulling for him to be successful. We're going to do everything we can to get him over the hump. He still has a lot of growing to do. But he is somebody people should be rooting for. I think that's what makes this stuff is so cool. Everyone gets, so caught up in, results and, is this guy doing enough, that guy doing enough? These are young guys. Sidi's 18 years old. He's 18 years old, from Senegal, only has his mom. Basically, junior high school, he moves to Madrid, Spain to pursue this basketball thing with the Real Madrid club. And then next thing you know, he's 17 years old, getting shipped to the States. And, so, that's a lot of stuff. It's almost traumatic. So I'm glad that the fans are taking notice of him and appreciating him. And, I love him to death. And, I want to really see if we can help him be a great basketball player, because I think it could really impact his life.
I know that for some reason or another, I end up sitting in front of him on the bus a couple of times, and he's on the phone, and maybe with his mom. I have no idea what the conversation is because, I don't know the language. Yeah. But I enjoy listening to him, even though I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably, if it's with his mom, they speak, an African dialect, and I wouldn't even know, but I want to act like I know what it is, Yeah. And obviously, but French is kind of his native language, that's their social language, that they speak in Senegal. And then he actually speaks Spanish fluently as well. So, it's pretty impressive stuff. And, I'm just trying to master this English thing. And here he is, speaking them all.
All right. Well, we're going to have a special guest tonight. Michael Loria from the College of Science is going to join us here in a couple of minutes. You love to get involved with other areas around campus other than athletics. So tell us about Michael and what it means to you.
Well, Michael's, he and I've developed a friendship over the years. He's an outgoing guy, got a great personality, and he's a great promoter of the university and the College of Sciences. And I'm a closet science guy. Believe it or not, I was a biology major back in college and thought for about 10 minutes that I was going to be a doctor, and then I realized how much smarter my classmates were than me, and so I got into this coaching thing. But without things like the College of Science or the Humanities program, I honestly probably wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have this college athletic system, that people can say whatever they want about it because it is a little chaotic right now. But it's been an awesome place for me to have a career, and I'm so thankful, and I love being part of a university because there's so many more things going on than just basketball that I think it's really cool. It's people that work at a university are always a really cool, interesting bunch because these are people that have decided to dedicate their life to help educate the next generation. And these students, we were all at that age at one time, 18 to 22. There's so many things going on in their lives that there's a certain energy and a vibe around a college campus that I think is really cool. And Arizona certainly has that. And, the College of Sciences is an awesome department. I mean, they do so much more stuff than that I don't even know about. I still, the one thing, I haven't done the mirror lab, but my family has, thank you. I haven't done the biosphere. But I have done the planetariums, right? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and then Sky Center, and then I have been to a Beastie Boys laser light show at the at the thing. So that was really important. So
right.
Yeah, so no, I think it's really cool, and I think it's really amazing. And so with this show, what we've wanted to do, kind of as a staff, is use it as an opportunity to bring people together, from the community and for the university. And, everything just doesn't need to be focused on, me or our program, because there's so many more things going on that I think people would find really interesting and really cool to be associated with. So, right. That's why we started this. So I think you guys will enjoy Michael. He'll be much more interesting than me.
Well, we'll see. All right. We'll grade both of you afterwards.
Oh, wow.
All right. Hey, thanks, Coach. Best of luck Saturday.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate you.
Head Coach Tommy Lloyd. Michael Loria joins us next. This is Wildcat Basketball from Arizona Sports Enterprises.
.com.
Tommy Lloyd Radio Show presented by West Coast Trial Lawyers. We're pleased to have with us tonight Michael Loria. I'll give you his formal title here. Assistant Dean, Corporate and Community Engagement for the College of Science.
That's right.
Does it fit on your business card?
No, that's the U of A. They like long titles.
All right, very good. Well, Michael, great to have you along. And for those that don't know you, and I'm assuming that not everyone knows you, you've been almost a lifelong Tucsonan, been at the U of A for over 6 years now, but prior to that, you worked in the restaurant industry here and at the Children's Museum downtown. And so it's great to have you as part of the U of A gang, we'll put it that way.
Yeah.
What got you interested in going back to the college campus? You're a U of A grad. I need to mention that.
Yeah.
What encouraged you to get back on campus?
Well, basically growing up in Tucson and being a Wildcat and going to school here and staying a Wildcat fan all these years. And then actually, I'm a recovered restaurateur right here actually in St. Philip's Plaza back in the day. And then I ended up at the Children's Museum and really loved my opportunity and my experience there bringing such a vital asset to the community. And when an opportunity presented itself at the College of Science to basically, first for myself, learn about everything about the College of Science and then be able to share that with the broader community, that really spoke to me. Such amazing things happen every day on campus in the College of Science, and it's such an honor and a treat to be able to share that with our broader community.
And you look at the umbrella that's under the College of Science, and I'll just mention a couple here: astronomy, chemistry, computer science, geosciences, hydrology and atmospheric sciences, tree ring research, lunar and planetary laboratory, speech, language, and hearing sciences. I could go on from there, but it's a huge part of the campus. You have thousands of students that are in the College of Sciences. Is there a favorite area? I mentioned some of them that students gravitate to, or because you have so many incredible programs there is really widespread.
Well, I mean, like you said, we're a very large academic unit on campus. We have 14 departments, 22 undergraduate degrees, 34 graduate degree programs. And, in terms of what attracts our students, I think psychology is our largest department, almost 2,000 students, and computer science is our second largest department. But then there are others that are much smaller, like astronomy, but world-renowned in what we do. And so that's the beauty, is there's something for everybody in the sciences at the College of Science.
I want to get this out early here, because as much as this is centered around U of A students that are on campus right now, the general public also has a chance to get involved, and you have your 20th annual lecture series coming up here next month. It's free for the public at Centennial Hall. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it was something we're really proud of at the College of Science. We were the first academic unit to create and bring a free lecture series to the local community. And like you said, this will be our 20th anniversary. This year, we are focusing on today's science, tomorrow's world, building a brighter future. And there'll be 4 lectures. They're February 4th, 11th, 17th, and 25th. And they cover a range of topics utilizing some of our faculty from various departments. So our first one on February 4th, something that I will say speaks to me, is aging science, preventing disease at its source. And so that's going to be a fascinating topic. But it also, we have later in the series, we also have Earth Story, the importance of human understanding in the age of AI. So AI is something that we all read about and hear about every day. So how does that play a role in understanding the beginnings of the universe and Earth?
So if you get a chance to meet a young student, let's say either looking at entering the U of A into the College of Science, or maybe is there early on. I know you don't have a lot of contact necessarily with them, but if they say, hey, what should I do if I want to get into the College of Science? I don't know exactly where I want to go with it, but something here interests me. What do you tell them?
Well, I think first of all is to talk to their counselors and to look at our different degree programs, find something that has some degree of interest for them. And the nice thing is you can get in. You have a lot of gen ed classes that you start with, and you take classes in different disciplines, and then you can hone in a little bit. So sometimes we have students who start in one major. They may say, "Oh, I think I want to do astronomy," and then they switch to neuroscience or data science or something like that. So there's lots of opportunity, and there's so much breadth and depth within the College of Science that there's a little bit of something for everybody if you're interested even broadly in the sciences.
Okay, and I think there's areas that a lot of people here are aware of, because if you've lived in Tucson for any time at all, Flandreau Planetarium, of course, a big part of it, the Mount Lemmon Sky Center, if you ever go up there, the Mirror Lab, Tommy mentioned that. I also wanted to ask about the tree ring research, because that was one of the things I learned early on, because when I got here, I found out it was in the football stadium.
That's right.
And I said, okay, now wait a minute, you've got to explain this to me. You explain it for those that don't know what the tree ring research really does.
Sure. It's the Laboratory of Tree Ring Research, and the study of tree rings is called dendrochronology. And that was actually just created at the University of Arizona. And it was created by an astronomer who felt like that they could, correlate the basically weather and sunspots and things like that. And ultimately, he was a little off base initially, but it ended up creating this discipline called dendrochronology. And so the University of Arizona is home to the largest research center for tree rings in the world. We are the gold standard. And there are tours that docents lead, so members of the public can come, can go online and sign up for a tour and come down and learn about it and see the lab, see the archive. It's an amazing experience.
Yeah.
And just like Sky Center on Mount Lemmon, Flandreau, or the Mirror Lab, we have these great assets in our own backyard that members of our community can participate in and learn from.
I had to cut down a tree in my backyard a few years ago, and I actually looked at it thinking, I wonder what this means. So
yeah.
that's what it's all about, is that the study of that. It's amazing what those that know, the scientists, can learn from that tree.
Well, we can basically now date trees thousands of years back, and then you can start to put the patterns together. So you can see weather and climate change patterns, fire patterns. So you can sort of follow climate change through the course of tree rings by looking at what they've done, how they've recovered from fire. When they have, the width of a tree ring is wider or narrow based on water. So you can see when there were years of drought or when there were years of plentiful water. So it's really an amazing tool, and we're just beginning to be able to use the study of tree rings in other disciplines and in other ways to unlock new scientific discoveries.
Amazing. All right, Michael Lurie, our guest. He's from the College of Sciences at the U of A. More with Michael when we come back in a moment. This is Wildcat Basketball from Arizona Sports Enterprises. All right, more of the Tommy Lloyd Radio Show presented by West Coast Trial Lawyers. We're pleased to have with us Michael Lurie. He's the Assistant Dean, Corporate and Community Engagement, College of Science at the University of Arizona. Michael, I wanted to ask you about outer space because it is such a key part of the U of A campus and the research that has been done, known worldwide for many things. What really stands out there, and how has it grown here over the years?
Oh, my goodness. So we are experts in space sciences, and I will say some of the things that do stand out for the College of Science and the University of Arizona is that our astronomy and lunar and planetary lab departments, they have been, mostly LPL, have been involved in every NASA mission since the landing on the moon. And in fact, most people don't know that the mapping of the moon for those landings took place at the University of Arizona. So that's one of our strengths. I think we're number 4 nationally for funding from NASA. And then things like James Webb Space Telescope. Everybody has heard about that, I assume, here in town. 2 of the 3 cameras were developed here at the U of A at the College of Science by 2 of our researchers. And those are the cameras that are providing these phenomenal images that we're seeing. And then you have, underneath the football stadium, the Mirror Lab. And we're making these 25-foot mirrors that are one of a kind, that take multiple years to fabricate, and they are used in telescopes around the world, including the giant Magellan telescope that is under construction right now and that will be open. Oh gosh, I think we have another 5 or 6 years until it's done. But amazing things that are happening in the space sciences and the planetary sciences.
Is there anything next? Is there something coming up that we should be looking for?
Well, I think in the realm of space, I want to just say that I think there's going to be an intersection of space and basketball at the U of A.
Oh.
So February is going to be an interesting month for that intersection. So I'm just going to leave it at that and say stay tuned and keep your eyes out.
Space and basketball. Now, you mentioned psychology as part of being under the College of Sciences, and I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily connect those two. How do they? Why is psychology under the College of Science? Why is it important to be there?
Well, so you bring up an interesting point. It's somewhat atypical when you look at College of Sciences around the country and other institutions. You don't always see psychology in a College of Science. And that's one of our strengths, is that we are unique. And things like computer science and psychology don't always end up in a College of Science. We also have hydrology and atmospheric sciences. So one of our strengths at the University of Arizona and the College of Science is the diversity of sciences that we offer and the talent that we have with our faculty and our ability to teach the next generation. I think psychology, is just very popular with a major for young people, and we do a very good job of it. And I think because it is almost maybe, I'm going to say more consumer friendly than to say neuroscience or things like that. It's a little, easier for some and find it more interesting. Some people really want to go deep in a very specific field. Maybe it's speech, hearing, and language, and others are looking for something a little bit more general.
So if I was better at psychology, if I had majors in psychology, could I then figure out how my computer works better? I'm just kidding there, but I mean, that's what it feels like sometimes. You know what I mean?
Well, if you did psychology and computer science, then you'd be onto something.
That would be it. But anyway, you mentioned the faculty, and we don't have time to list everybody's names, and I'm not going to ask for any names, but the strength of the faculty in the College of Sciences is world-renowned. And how have they been drawn to Arizona and to Tucson?
I think some of it is history, right? We're building on the shoulders of our predecessors, the faculty that have been there before. And so that's what attracts faculty. When you have a reputation for quality science and world-changing discoveries, that's what brings people there. And then, of course, for our students, that's what brings them to the University of Arizona, because they know they're going to get a top-notch education, and they're going to have the opportunity to work closely with these amazing faculty that are doing incredible things. It really gives you, to be able to be surrounded by these faculty, I certainly, when I get to interact with them, I'm in awe. Sometimes I'm a little lost in the clouds about what they're saying, but I am always in awe of what they're doing and, the good hands that our future is in.
Michael, this has been fun, and we could keep going, but unfortunately we're running out of time here. But thank you very much. I think you've enlightened myself and a lot of folks as to what a great part of the University of Arizona College of Sciences is. So keep up the good work.
Thank you. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to share a little bit about the College of Science with our community.
Yeah, and we look forward to February when basketball and outer space become connected.
It's like a meetup.
It is. I'm thinking that there's going to be one of our players, maybe Tobe Awaka, because he has great, jumping ability. He's going to leap over the moon.
Well, I think you need to ask Coach Lloyd that on the next show.
All right, we will preview that. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate it. All right, Michael Loria, he is with the College of Sciences, Assistant Dean for Corporate and Community Engagement. We'll wrap things up in just a moment. This is Wildcat Basketball from Arizona Sports Enterprises. Just wanted to follow up again on what Michael Loria mentioned, the 20th annual lecture series for the College of Sciences at the U of A. It's free. It's open to the public. It's at Centennial Hall. The dates are February 4th, 11th, 17th, and 25th. You can check their website for more information on that. Wildcats are headed to Fort Worth, Texas on Saturday to take on the TCU Horned Frogs. Game will tip off at 2 o'clock. Arizona time. Will be on the air at 1:30 from Fort Worth, and then home next Wednesday to host Arizona State. That'll be an 8:30 tip-off at McHale Center. And the game sponsor next week is MidFirst Bank. MidFirst Bank, home of the Arizona Athletics debit card. Go to midfirst.com/Wildcats for details. MidFirst Bank, true to you member, FDIC. So 14 of the 16 teams will be in action on Saturday in the Big 12, along with Arizona and TCU. Houston's at Baylor, Kansas at West Virginia, Kansas State at ASU, Oklahoma State visits Iowa State, Texas Tech will travel to Colorado, BYU at Utah, and then Sunday, Cincinnati will face UCF. Going into the weekend, Arizona, Houston, Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, unbeaten, 2-0 in league play so far. Everybody else has at least one loss. And again, TCU will come in with a record of 1-1, 11-4 overall for their game coming up on Saturday against Arizona. Also, a couple other key games on Saturday. There are still 6 unbeaten teams in college basketball. One of them, Miami of Ohio, plays at Toledo tomorrow. And then on Saturday, Nebraska 15-0 traveling to Indiana. The Hoosiers are 12-3. Wisconsin at Michigan. The Wolverines are 14-0, and Vanderbilt will host LSU on Saturday. The Commodores are 15-0. Do it for tonight. We're off next week, back in 2 weeks. Thanks you for joining us, and bear down.